How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the 9th episode of Subscriber Showdown, the show where you guys send in your cars for me to review, tell you guys all about them, the mods that you've done, and basically give my opinion on them. And the whole point of this is that you guys vote to choose your favourite car from the video, and the winner of that vote wins one of these bad boys, a Cars with JB winner of Subscriber Showdown window sticker. But this is a slightly special episode of Subscriber Showdown. I thought, why not try and theme it? So we're going to focus in this time on hatchbacks that people have modded to differing levels of expenditure. I want you guys to jump into the description and there is a link to a poll to choose which of the 5 cars is your favourite. There used to be an iCard or whatever with the poll in it, but YouTube has cancelled that for some reason, so we no longer have that option. I'll also pin it in the comments as well, so if you want to jump down there, click on it and vote for your favourite car. If you'd like to enter your car into Subscriber Showdown, all of the information is in the description down below. Go check it out and yeah, send in your cars. Make sure you send in minimum of about 10 pictures of the car though, because I get loads of entries with like 2 or 3 pictures and it's quite difficult to make a full-on section about your car with 2 pictures. But for the last episode, a massive well done to Dewi for winning with his Audi A1. It was a stunning car, very well deserved. I'll be sending you out your prize shortly. Anyway, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff, and without further ado, let's get into the video. So first up we have Rowan's VW Polo 9N3 Match, which he bought back in 2019 for just over £2,000. It's the 1.4 TDI, and apparently he wasn't really a car guy before buying this, but then once he got it, his work colleagues started being like, you should start modding it and start doing stuff to it. So he did, and ultimately now he loves cars. And more specifically, he loves his Polo because he's done a whole bunch of stuff to it to make it that bit more interesting. Now that includes 50mm lowering springs, BBS 15-inch alloys, GTI honeycomb grills, a cone air filter, tinted windows, wind deflectors, 10mm wheel spacers, a Sony stereo, a rear wiper delete, an air horn for fun as well, and also painted VW badges, which were actually done by the previous owner, but they're also still a modification. In the future, he would like to put in the GTI heated seats, a new gear knob, and he'd quite like to make one himself. If you're good at that kind of stuff, I highly recommend doing it because no one else can have the same thing as you if you've made it. Coilovers for a better ride and height, and bonnet gas struts as well. That's actually something that my car came with. I don't know why your Match doesn't, but whatever. And in terms of current problems, got the engine light on, which is just classic VW stuff basically. Got a bit of rust around the back box, and also it's not fast enough. And I definitely feel you on the not fast enough point there, Rowan. Polos generally aren't that quick. So what are my thoughts on this? I really like the front of the car in particular. I like the GTI grille and the GTI honeycomb throughout, particularly because you haven't put a GTI badge on the car, so you haven't tried to lie about the car being a GTI. You've literally just let it be itself whilst also having those parts too. I think that really upgrades the front of a 9N3. The BBS alloys, you did very well to get them for just £125. That's insane, obviously second hand, but they're not my style of alloys, but that's just literally just personal preference. I would consider maybe getting them polished up to being a little bit more bright, I suppose, the best bet. I don't think I'd go black on them. I know lots of people probably would. Maybe I'd even go on a different color. Maybe I'd go for like a bronze kind of color. I just think that maybe in their current color they look a little bit old. I do, however, like the black on black theme, so the black badges, the black tinted windows, etc. That's all very cool. And in terms of my recommendations for the future, I think what's key for this car is to do that interior. So the GTI seats, as I've done in my Polo, are 100% worth going for. They literally completely upgrade the car. You could also go for the 9N3 GTI steering wheel. It's not too big a job. It's quite easy to do and just throw that into the car too. Definitely agree on coilovers. That would definitely help in terms of bringing that ride to the right kind of height for you. But I would recommend saving a bit and getting a good pair of coilovers because there are a lot of really bad ones you can get that won't really last you that long. They might last like a year or two, but ultimately they'll just give you a worse ride than what you already have on the car. And this is something that I'm never usually a fan of, but I would maybe consider going for some tinting on the front lights. I like that you've got the black on black already. If they were maybe a tiny bit tinted, not massively, but a little bit, that might look quite nice too. Anyway, massive thank you to Rowan for entering. Very cool to see your first car and all the stuff that you've done to it so far. Let's get on to the next one. So next up we have Kyle's Seat Ibiza Cupra 6J, and this is a particularly nice looking car. It's very clean, and I would say it goes down that sort of car show vibe with the ultra clean, but also just minimal mods to give it that little bit of extra flair basically. Now Kyle hasn't gone in depth on the mods, but he has said that it's running an estimated 200 brake horsepower and that it's got a Miltech exhaust on the rear, which is always very nice to hear. But as you can see, it's running a far more aggressive stance than the standard IBIZA, as well as the tinted headlights and the tinted windows to give it that kind of black and white feel. And it's got one really rogue modification as well, which is neons, and like that just seems so mad to me, because in my head that only exists in Fast and Furious, but here they are on a Seat Ibiza just chilling in the UK. And obviously on top of this, he's also got his private plate on there, which really does stand out, and it's a 4D plate too, which we always like to see. Now my opinions on this, yes, very nice looking car. I like how clean it looks, and I don't think that it's the kind of thing that you want to do too much to. The thing about going for the clean look on the car is that you are limited with the types of mods that you can kind of move on to over the long period of time. You have to make sure that everything fits in with the theme and doesn't kind of screw it or go too over the top. You can't have one thing overpowering the entire look, and this car does a really good job of not having anything like that. In my case, I'm not looking at this Ibiza and seeing like one thing sticking out. Like I'm not seeing alloys that stick out. I'm not seeing like body kit that sticks out or whatever. And so yes, as an overall job, it does look really good. In terms of what you do next to it, I don't know what you've done to the interior because you haven't said, but it would be interior for me. I'd be looking at taking that nice clean exterior and either bringing that onto the interior, or I might go a bit mental with it and instead go for like a race vibe interior. So you've got this super clean exterior with not too much done to it, but then on the interior you make it look over the top as if everything's been done to it, but also obviously in a nice way. I just mean like you bang in some nice race bucket seats or something, maybe a small cage. I've got a friend who's really good at doing that, and I'll link him in the description because loads of his cars kind of go along that route and they look sick. Anyway, thank you very much to Carl for entering. Let's get on to the next one. But before we do move on to the next one, just wanted to say massive thank you to you guys for the growth recently. Really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like the video as well, and go follow me on Instagram at carswithjb for daily car related uploads. Next up we have Tom's Peugeot 206 from 2005. He actually bought it this year in February for £1,500, which is quite expensive but not awful, and he uses it as his daily driver. It's actually his second car, so before this he had another 206, decided he wanted a little bit more performance, so he went for the Sport instead. Very fair reason to upgrade, I guess. Now the reason why it was only £1,500 is actually because it's quite a low mileage car, only 42,000 miles, which is not bad for a 2005 plate. And the car also came with a poorly painted boot lid and front wing, so he's done both of those things prior to adding any mods onto the car. But those mods include a Sportex back box, Piper Cross cone filter, he sprayed the front badge black, he debadged it on the rear, and it's got high-speed wind deflectors on it. In the future he would like to put Apex lowering springs on the car. He actually owns them but hasn't put them on yet. Tinted windows, he wants some new alloys, looking at the OZ Racing ones, or he'll get the alloys off of a GTI. He wants to black out that rear badge as well, and then maybe get some smoke tail lights or some Lexus style tail lights instead. And in terms of problems, it's still a bit rough around the edges. The driver's side door apparently doesn't close properly, and on top of all of that he has to replace a few sensors, but other than that the car has been very reliable. Now my opinions on this car, I really like the colour. The colour is super sick. I'm obviously a fan of blue with my blue Polo, but this is a really good colour for a 206, and also for £1,500 you've definitely done well there. I'd definitely be happy with the purchase for that kind of money. I think once you've put the suspension on there and it's slightly lower, a bit more stanced, it will look quite good. Add on to that a good set of grills. So the grills in the front I think are a bit rogue. I'd maybe go for like a blue and black vibe on this car. I'd change the front grills out for some honeycomb ones or something just a bit more mesh-like in black. You could potentially even respray the stuff that's already on the car. Then I would also change both the fog lights and the front lights as well on the car. I'd maybe go for some LEDs because I think that would really upgrade the look at the front. In terms of the alloys, I've never been a big fan of the GTI alloys, but I understand why you would go for them to keep it looking OEM. I would probably go for something more like the OZs that you're talking about instead. And then on the interior, one thing that I definitely try and find is the GTI 180 seats. You can find them on eBay and stuff for not too much money. If you can get hold of those and shove them in, that would be quite nice, I reckon. But yes, great job so far. I look forward to seeing where it goes in the future. Thank you very much for entering. Next up we have Jake with his 2008 VW Polo 9N3, which he bought back in September 2019, and it's actually his first car, which makes this all the more impressive because it is a stunning Polo build, much nicer than mine. Apparently had a bit of trouble with the garage that he bought the car from because they kind of weren't honest with him about the sale, but ultimately he's got the car now, it's in a good position, and he's done a whole bunch of mods to it, and for a first car he has done very well. So he's done a wiper delete, GTI top and bottom honeycomb grills, Blue Motion rear valence professionally painted as well, XXR 527 wheels in chrome honeycomb black. They look sick. A Kenwood underseat subwoofer, as well as a set of speakers in there too. Pioneer touchscreen radio, general LED interior bulbs, and LED side light bulbs, and a tartan rear badge insert, as well as wind deflectors. In the future, he would like some GTI or Blue Motion side skirts, the GTI or the new age Polo GTI interior, including the gear knob and gaiter and door trims. He wants to black out the rear windows, get a custom exhaust on there, get the GTI or custom headlights, coilovers, which are apparently the next mod, thinking about getting a cup front bumper, and finally a sun strip. And by the way, he's mentioned that one of the photos is actually photoshopped to look like he has lowered it. It's not actually been lowered yet, but it's supposed to be lowered shortly. And taking that point and running with it, 100% the car needs to be lowered. It looks so much better in the Photoshop photos than it does in the other ones, just because of the way that it's dropped. I found exactly the same with my car. When I first put the new alloys on it, there was way too much space between the top of the tyre and the bottom of the arch, but once I got it that little bit lower, it finally sat and looked nice and flush. In terms of your ideas for next modifications, I would say that the cup front bumper might be a bit of overkill. It would look very nice, obviously, but it's quite an expensive modification, so you don't necessarily need to do it. I think the honeycomb looks good in and of itself as of now. Your point around the interior, I've spoken a lot about interiors in this video, but definitely agree again. If you can get a new age Polo interior in there, 100% that would be nice. If not, if you just have to go for the 993 GTI interior, that will also look pretty good as well, I reckon. I definitely feel like it's the interior on this car that's currently laying it down. Everything else looks really good on the exterior. I also like that you've gone for like the OEM vibe as well, so going for the Blue Motion stuff or the GTI stuff. It really keeps it looking that little bit more clean and almost like the car was supposed to look like that. And that means that the alloys really pop off because you know that they weren't supposed to be on the car. So in reality, the alloys become like a bit of a centerpiece and the rest of the car looks nice and clean to kind of complement them. But yes, thank you to Jake for entering. As I've said already a million times, great job on your first car. Let's get on to the last car on this video. And last but not least, we have Graham's 2005 Ford Fiesta Mark 6. Now it's his second car and he's done a few small modifications to it, and I think there's a good opportunity here to make something quite cool. So far he's done a few things that are a little bit out of the ordinary when it comes to some of the other cars that get entered into these videos, such as respraying the engine bay to be black with the white Ford lettering, which I think is actually really nice. He's also done some respraying on the interior, as well as adding some black hubcaps as a temporary measure before we put some alloys on there. On top of that, he's also put on some wind deflectors and some tinted rear windows and rear lights. But the biggest thing that he's done so far is add on the exhaust tip from a Toyota GT86, which is a very rogue decision, but I quite like the idea that he's just gone and grabbed that exhaust tip, and apparently it makes the car pop and bang a little bit, which is quite funny on a 1.25 litre. In the future he wants to add a new air intake, get the ST front and rear bumpers as well to get a more aggressive look, as well as the spoiler, and then he also wants the ST rims from either the Mark 6 or the Mark 7. Basically there's a whole bunch of ST related things he wants to throw onto the car. I think that's really cool. I actually think you've got a great opportunity here to not just kind of replicate an ST, but also take the best parts from the ST as well as the Z-Tech S. They've got very slightly different body styles, and I think that if you kind of merge the two, you might be able to find something that looks really cool. And I would also recommend, with the mods that you're going to be doing to the car in terms of making it that little bit more updated but keeping the OEM look, I would maybe consider going for some non-OEM alloys, because I think that when you go for the OEM on OEM on OEM, it looks like a replica, but if you go for the OEM and then you throw on some alloys from KKR, kind of like the Polo we spoke about before, you end up with something that looks a little bit more aggressive or special. I also, as I've said with every other car in this video, would not forget the interior. There's so much you can do on that interior to make this car that little bit nicer. I would throw in, yes, maybe the OEM seats from the ST or the Z-Tech S, or just throw a set of buckets in there because I think that might also look quite good. Anyway, massive thanks to Graham for entering. I really appreciate it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. Massive thank you to the patrons as always. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Listen.